morning, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about my research proposal, which involve in the negative consequences of exercises on diabetics patients. First, I will talk about a background of the topic in general, and then I will tell you why this topic is important. And after that, I will mention some literature review about other researchers. And finally, I will mention my methods. So, what is diabetes? The definition of diabetes means is a serious disease which leads to metabolism disorders and increase in height and increase the blood glucose. Actually, this disease is caused by the failure of the body to produce enough insulin in order to resist the increase in blood glucose. Actually, there are two types of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes results from the autoimmune destruction to pancreatic beta cells which produce insulin, and this type is most common in children and teenagers. Therefore, it's called juvenile diabetes. Type 2 diabetes results from the disorders of insulin production in pancreatic beta cells and the tissue resistant to the insulin production. And this is the most prevalent type of diabetes. It is most common in adults and the older people, and it is related to obesity. Actually, there are many ways to treat this disease, but not to prevent it, just to balance the sugar in blood in our bodies. The main contributing treatments of diabetes are insulin medications and injections, a balanced diet and physical exercises, and patient education. Of course, insulin medications and injections are the main treatments, especially for type 1 diabetes, since they don't have insulin in their body, so they need insulin. They need injection and medication insulin in their bodies. A balanced diet and physical exercises are considered to be an effective treatment for diabetic patients by reducing the excess weight and improving glucose control and regulation, and also improving the heart and blood vessels disease. Functions. The last one is patient education about the early diagnosis. Can limit the risk of developing chronic disease complications. Why this topic is important and why I am interested in this topic is, for diabetes as a general. Actually, this disease is one of the common chronic disease nowadays, which doctors don't find any treat to prevent this disease, just to balance the sugar. And according to the World Health Organization, about 100 million people around the world have suffered from diabetes at all ages, especially the type 2 diabetes. Actually, the seriousness of this disease lies on 2 points. The first one is the possible consequences that may happen if patients don't control this disease and don't treat it early. For example, diabetes can lead to heart and blood vessels disease and some imprints in eyes and kidneys and nerves. And actually, because of the nerve impairment, it may lead to diabetic foot disease. The second point that makes it more serious is the main contributing factor to develop this disease is obesity. And you know, nowadays with the growing prevalence of obesity, the prevalence of this disease may increase much more. And also, I'm interested in this topic, in the particular topic, which is the influence of physical exercise, because most of the articles that I have read mention the positive influence of physical exercise. So my study will investigate the other side of physical exercise on diabetic patients in order to fill the gap in the literature review of other researchers. So my research question is, does physical exercise have negative influences and consequences on diabetic patients? Actually, based on the article, based on the study that have been done, there is a strong relationship between diabetes and physical exercise, which can be positive. One article mentioned that the importance of doing exercise for diabetic patients in losing the excess weight and improving the blood glucose levels, and having positive effecting on mental health, on the patient's mental health. In addition, in this article, they mentioned that exercise enhances the activities of some processes that have a role in the regulation of blood glucose, such as the insulin production in the body and carbohydrate metabolism, and the hormones that are involved in the carbohydrate metabolism. Other researchers describe the importance of losing weight in increasing the capability of cells in our body to respond to the insulin. In addition, a study has shown the positive impact of physical exercise on diabetic foot disease, and more specifically, the expanding of arteries and improving foot perfusion, which means the blood delivery process to different tissues. And since diabetes is associated with heart and blood vessels disease, since diabetes is associated with heart and blood vessels disease, the main cause of diabetic foot disease comes from the narrowing or blocked the arteries, the peripheral arteries. And because the main reason here, because the blood glucose, the increase in blood glucose stay for a long time. Other studies mention the role of some technology devices as motivational tools in order to help diabetic patients to control and observe their blood glucose and their heart rate, such as continuous glucose monitor and heart rate monitor. On the other hand, maybe just one article mentions some advice for diabetic patients to control and observe their blood glucose, because even though the main point of doing exercise is to reduce the blood glucose, actually reducing the blood glucose can lead to some negative impact, such as fainting, especially if patients don't control this disease. So the gap in the literature review, since the studies that have already been done are limited on the positive effect of physical exercises, my studies is needed to detect the problem that may make the exercise harmful for diabetic patients. more specifically, this study aims to know if the insulin injections and medicines have a role in increase the possible negative consequences on diabetics patients. In addition, this study would know whether the type of exercise or the intensity of exercise can have also a role in increasing the complications. So, to answer my question, the study will use two types of methods, which are quantitative and qualitative. The first quantitative method will be a survey. The survey will investigate the influence of physical exercise on diabetic patients who live in Denmark. It will select 15. This survey will select 15 diabetic patients at all ages in order to get different accurate results. The survey includes different questions about the type of exercise that diabetic patients do and the type of the disease that they suffer from, and some complications that may happen after doing exercise, and also their awareness about controlling the blood glucose. So the survey aims to know whether exercise in general or just a type of exercise have a positive, negative influence on diabetic patients. Also, it will measure the influence of controlling and observing the blood glucose and the insulin doses after and before doing exercise. This is the survey. The other quantitative method will be a human experiment method. 20 patients from Swedish Medical Center in Denmark will be selected to participate in doing aerobic exercise during a month. I mean for aerobic like swimming, cycling, or walking. It will select different ages and different genders. We will have two groups. We will divide the patient to two groups with and without taking insulin doses, or more specifically with and without changing the insulin doses. And a heart rate monitor and a continuous glucose monitor will be used to measure the change in blood glucose levels and the heart rate and the maximum heart rate. This experiment aims to identify if the insulin doses have a connection in increase the positive influence of the positive consequences on diabetic patients, and also it will measure the possible impact of doing long time and short time exercise. And sorry, I forgot to tell you. The groups will do the exercise. We divided the group to two. We divided the patient to two groups. One group will do the exercise in less than an hour each day, and the other will do it more than an hour each day during a month. The last method, which is a quantitative method, is interview. Since doctors have a busy schedule, about 5 doctors from Swedish Medical Center in Denmark will be interviewed in order to ask them about their knowledge of the possible negative consequences that may happen for diabetic patients after doing exercise. and their roles in educating the patient, and giving advice to them about the inappropriate exercise. Actually, this interview aims to know if the exercise in general has a role in increase the complications on diabetic patient, or just a type of exercise. Yeah, this is my research proposal, and this is my references, and thank you for listening.
So, Renata, in your survey that you're going to do of the diabetes, which questions do you think are most important out of those in terms of getting the information that you want? Are there some questions you want to focus on?
Yeah, I aim to know if they have complications after, if the complications come from doing exercise or they already have it, and if the complications come from exercise in general or just a type of exercise. I want to know which type of exercise can make the disease more risky.
So question 5 then would be very important to you.
Yeah. Do the complication come? Yeah. And also I want to know if the insulin doses, because exercise and insulin doses, both of them lead to decrease the blood glucose. So it is hard to take them both or do them both. So I want to know if if the patient take it both, it will lead to some complication, or just they will the blood glucose will decrease. Just the reason.
I guess related to that, I wonder, in your human experiment, is there any danger? Do you see any danger in asking one group to not take their insulin and another group to take their insulin? How will you? Because I know you don't want to hurt anybody in this experiment, but how will you control for?
But if they don't take insulin, the exercise can do the role of the insulin, can decrease the blood glucose in the body.
Okay. So you would have
But actually, I think I thought the same thing, but so I am thinking about not just with and without taking, maybe with and without changing maybe just change the dose.
I see.
So you'd have a doctor maybe help you monitor and make sure the patients don't get into trouble.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Other questions? What was the most challenging part of doing this project?
Methods.
Methods, okay.
Because it's the first time for me to write methods. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's hard to imagine methods without doing it.
Yeah, it is. Definitely. All right, thank you.